This is my Renovar Covenant card, which I got when I was 23 because I went to a Renovar regional conference. Dallas Willard and Richard Foster and Bill Voswick were there. Renovar is an organization which I hope you know about, and if you don't, you should know more about them. Go look them up. They started in the late 80s, and they started with slogans like bringing the church to the churches. And what they had in mind with that was that they had identified 5 streams of living water. There's a book called that. Streams or traditions within church history, within the church global, that they saw as, well, streams of living water, things that were bringing goodness and life to the church. And they were things like holiness and contemplative and social justice and evangelical, and I'm missing one, charismatic. Those are the 5. Well, in the early 90s, Richard Foster and Dallas Willard and James Bryan Smith, who was part of the early founding of Renovar, were sitting in a meeting and I guess talking about the streams. And James Bryan Smith says he remembers when Dallas said, "I think we're missing a stream." And the stream that he said we were missing was eventually called the sacramental or incarnational stream. Hey everybody, welcome to the Sanctus Forum. I am Michael Stewart Robb. Welcome, hello. Rainy day here in Munich for me. Yeah, a little darker than usual, which is okay. I'm going to get a haircut today, so in case you were wondering when, if ever, that was going to happen, it's happening today. So next time you see me, I should be freshly shorn. I want to remind you, many of you already know this, that Sanctus is a nonprofit organization, and we support ourselves largely through donations and volunteer work and that kind of thing. One of the things that we do for our donors is that we give away a free book, and this is Something to Say, a comprehensive bibliography of Dallas Willard, which I put together, and it includes all of the written things that Dallas Willard has done over his life, although it's actually not all, but it's all that you can get started with, as well as all of the recorded audio and video that we have of him, and it puts it all, gives it all a date, gives it all a name, and if you give, I think it's 25 euros to us, lots of ways to do that, then we will send you this for free, especially if you live in the United States or in Europe. If you live outside of there, we probably can still get it to you, and you certainly can still make a donation, but do contact us first and we'll figure something out. Sanctus Institute /friends, sanctus.institute/friends is how you will find out about becoming a friend and getting a book like that. Of course, you don't even need to get the book. You can just make a donation, and that helps us do what we do here in Europe, which is about helping Europeans discover spiritual formation, especially European leaders. This is the Conspiracy Commentaries. Yes, you probably know about this already, but Dallas Willard's book, The Divine Conspiracy, one of the best books of the 20th century, and we just talk about it bit by bit, and the bit we're talking about today is in the 4th chapter, and it's starting a newer section called Dealing with the Soul in Depth, and the smaller section for today is Jesus's manner of teaching. And actually, all of these next upcoming sections will have to do with Jesus's manner of teaching. And just a few little things here. This isn't a terribly complicated section, but what certainly stands out is how Dallas wants to say that Jesus taught concretely. And he says it multiple times, concrete, concrete, concrete. And his first example of this is in the parables. And he says that Jesus, in constructing a parable, used elements out of ordinary everyday life. And that is how he taught concretely. So all of the parables, which you can think of, use elements that the people in Jesus's day would know about. He's talking about people sowing fields, and he's talking about family issues, all these kinds of stuff in parables. And then Dallas says, well, that's not the only case of concrete teaching. And he says that Jesus capitalizes upon events that happen around him. And then the rest of the chapter, section, has to do with 3 events that Jesus is going to use. So something happens in Jesus' surroundings, and then he says, aha, this is a teachable moment. I am going to use an element of this situation to teach you all about what God is like. And this Dallas Willard calls concrete. The last event that Dallas is going to talk about is the Passover meal. Now, Jews like Jesus and his disciples would have celebrated this every year, and it's a time to eat together and remember the Passover, Exodus. You all know this. And here's how Dallas interprets this. He says, around the simple elements of bread and wine, Jesus conveys the deepest meanings of his death for our new life from above. So that's the regeneration stuff that we've talked about in previous videos. The Dallas continues, this is my body, this is my blood. And then he says, nothing is more concretely powerful than body and blood. Now, let's give ourselves a different name for concrete. I've already mentioned a couple of them. Ordinary, everyday. Jesus, Dallas thinks, is taking these ordinary, everyday objects, wine and bread and body and blood, and saying, this is where it all happens, in this everyday, ordinary stuff. And now think about this. Think about why they call this 6th stream in Renovar the sacramental or the incarnational stream. I think it was perhaps not the best named stream. It did tend to confuse people. But if you look at this passage, you see a bit of what Dallas Willard at least thinks is happening. He thinks that there is life to be found in Christian experience, in a disciple's experience with the everyday, ordinary situations of life. And around a meal, gathered by things that sustain us, wine and bread. And then who we are, body and blood. These are the concrete situations in which God and his life from above can and will be present. And if you look at the things that Renovar puts out connected to the sacramental and incarnational stream, you will see that that's what it's all about. It's not so much about taking sacraments at church, though they've tried to pull that in there as well, but it is very much about the ordinary. And let me read to you one of the things that in the Renovar covenant you would covenant yourself to. The very last one. By God's grace, I will joyfully seek to show forth the presence of God in all that I am, in all that I do, in all that I say. Well, that's the incarnational, that's the sacramental stream, that's concrete, everyday, ordinary life where God can and wants to show up. Well, that's what I've got for you today. Make sure that you're subscribed so you can see more of these videos, and the newsletter, Sanctus Institute, you can find out about behind the scenes things of what we're doing in Europe, and pray for us, which is a very big deal. Thanks. Bye.